we
Sorry, I just started recording the chapter chat for anyone who couldn't make it tonight.
No worries. Doe, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for coming to our chapter chat tonight. We're super excited to talk with y'all. My name's Nathan Blanken. I use he, him pronouns. I go to the University of Maryland, College Park, up here in College Park, Maryland, just north of DC. And I'm the chapter president at the University of Maryland, College Park chapter.
Yeah. I'm Doa and I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Nashville. I go to school at Vanderbilt. And I'm also the chapter president of the Vanderbilt chapter of Active Minds. I'm really excited to talk to you all tonight. Should we go around and everyone just like kind of say like their name, pronouns, and school?
Feel free to take it away if anyone wants to start.
I can go. Hi, my name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns. I am the president of the Baldwin Wallace University chapter in Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm Destiny Rose. I use she, her. We both go to City Adirondack, and I'm the president.
And my name is Kate Miller, and I go by she, her pronouns, and I am the treasurer of our club here.
I guess I'll go. I'm my name is Devin. I go by he, him pronouns. I am the chapter vice president at Muskegon Community College in Michigan.
I can hop in. My name is Ivy. I use she, her pronouns. I am actually done with college, but I work for the Active Minds national staff, so I'm just kind of sneaking in.
I guess if you can't like talk right now or anything, you can put it in the chat and we can like look through and read through it later. But maybe we can, Nathan, if we want to start talking about like our experiences with policy and advocacy, we could do that.
Yeah, definitely. So this chapter chat tonight is talking about how you can have an impact on policy and advocacy on your campus. So one of the things we're going to start with is Doe and I are going to speak about our own experiences. And it's cool because we come from different schools, obviously, and we have different experiences with the work we've done on our own campuses. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat to a Google Jamboard with a few sticky notes on it. And these sticky notes, if you have any questions while we're talking or things you want to ask questions about later, feel free to put a sticky note where or near the kind of columns that we've set up, whether it's a policy question, an advocacy question, or just a question in general. And then we'll come back to it either right after we're done or later in the chat and hopefully be able to answer that question. Cool. Well, Doe, do you want to start with your experiences with what you've done on campus?
Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, just in case you forgot, I'm from Vandy, which is in Nashville, and I've been a part of Active Minds since my freshman year, and I'm a senior now, so I definitely have a lot of different experiences I can talk about. First, I'll kind of start with, I know like advocacy and policy are pretty intertwined in a lot of ways, but I can like start more with advocacy and then go into policy. But I think something that has helped a lot during my time at Vandy and like advocating for these things is working with a lot of outside organizations. And so a lot of ways that I'm involved in advocacy are through or with organizations off campus that have really contributed a lot to different policies and different things we're trying to like promote on campus. So for example, I've worked a lot with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and specifically the Tennessee chapter of this foundation, and we've done a lot of events such as like promoting certain like legislation at like on like state capitol day, and we also like bring that on campus to inform students about what's kind of going on in our community and at a state level, and like policies at a state and local level. And I think that's something that I found really valuable throughout my time at Vanderbilt and also at Active Minds, to be able to kind of partner with these organizations to inform students on campus about what's going on in their community, and being able to kind of like rally students for that cause as well. Another thing that we have done in terms of advocacy is, again, with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, we've done a lot of suicide prevention, suicide awareness types of events on our campuses. And I would say it's really nice to partner with these organizations because they can also provide funding and volunteers for these events. And so we've done a lot of that in terms of advocacy. Another thing that our chapter has done with advocacy is kind of talking about different perspectives on mental health and mental illness, like a very interdisciplinary approach. And we've done that through like bi-weekly meetings with we call it like the mental health reform group, and we kind of talk about different topics related to like mental health, psychology in general, and provide a more like interdisciplinary viewpoint that we might not really see in like our coursework, or just like for people who aren't studying these things to kind of get that perspective. So that's kind of like on the advocacy side of what we do. I can definitely go into more specifics later if any of you guys have questions about that. In terms of policy, I think that in the past two-ish or three, my first 2 years in Active Minds, we didn't do much with policy just because I was in school during COVID, and so it was really hard to get a lot of things done. But I would say in the past 2 years, we've been, my chapter specifically has been doing a lot more in terms of policy. And so right now, our two main initiatives that we've been working on have been related to mental health, like literacy modules. So specifically during orientation week, we kind of noticed the lack of information surrounding how to get help, and also like the types of resources that undergrad students can access. So we wanted to create something that could provide that information to students when they first come to campus, especially for transfer students as well, because I think that's like even like a different kind of space that a lot of students like kind of feel isolated. And so we've been working with the Student Care Network on our campus, as well as like the University Counseling Center, to kind of figure out the logistics for that. And I think a reoccurring thing that we'll definitely discuss more is like to definitely work with admin, to work with already available resources to kind of launch your ideas and initiatives, because it's really hard to do everything alone as like undergrad students. So that's one thing, like the mental health literacy modules. And then another aspect that we've been trying to push are wellness days on campus. I have a faculty advisor for our org, and it's really nice because there's like this faculty like perspective of what they view are pressing issues on campus. And I think a lot of students and faculty members have talked about how a lot of students are feeling really burnt out, and then it's hard to create any solutions to that because there's no like standardized solutions, as in like some professors are willing to give like extensions or like willing to reschedule exams, while some professors are not willing to do that at all, are really strict about their policies. And so right now we're still in like the initial steps, but our chapter is trying to figure out a way to implement wellness days in order to provide at least some sort of structure for professors. If they know like one of their students is like struggling, they can show that as like an option for their student to like use a wellness day. And we've seen it be pretty successful in some other college campuses. I know some other Active Minds chapters have implemented this at their schools. And so we're definitely trying to kind of model it after them. But yeah, those are kind of like the main things that my chapter has been like working on and doing in terms of policy. And I know I kind of touched on a lot of different things with what I just said right now. So like if you have any questions, definitely put them on the Jamboard and I'll take a look and like answer them. But yeah, that's like what my chapter has been working on for the past year/2 years.
That's really phenomenal, though. It's really a lot of cool things to hear. A lot of things I took notes on that we might have to implement here. But yeah, I would say in terms of what we've done on our campus at Maryland, it's been a lot more advocating and not necessarily a ton of policy. There has been a little bit of policy work just over the past few months that's been really interesting, and not necessarily at the school level, but on a state level, which has been really neat. I got reached out to by a representative for the state of Maryland a couple months ago asking if I would submit testimony for a mental health bill, creating a committee for the state of Maryland that would kind of review mental health policies all across the state for all the state institutions, which I thought was really cool that they considered reaching out to a club. But it's really important because it's students' feedback, and ultimately students are going to be the ones impacted by this. So being able to have this committee, I think, is really sweet. And the policy change behind that is really important. In terms of the advocacy work, one of the things that is huge for our club are club fairs. When we have club fairs on campus, we're able to see hundreds or potentially thousands of students that might not normally look at Active Minds. So when we do have these club fairs, it's important for us to be able to cast as wide of a net as possible and attract as many students as possible towards our table. So one of the things we found that was really effective in getting students to come to our table and learn more about Active Minds, which ultimately got up our number of members, was a simple poster, just a big white poster board. And in the middle, we wrote, "I pledge to be a mental health advocate." So it was really easy. We just wrote that in the middle and put out some different colored markers, and people would come by and they would write their name down. Sometimes people would question it, or they weren't sure they really wanted to. And we also had some stickers and put pamphlets, things to incentivize people to just be interested. But it was really just a great way to start the conversation. And people were really interested when they saw that others were signing their names on a piece of paper. Yeah, it's a great question, Ivy. When I'm done talking about this, I'll see if I can find it and put it in the chat. But it was really great. So by the time the event was over, I think it was 2 or 3 hours, we had this whole poster board filled up with names, which is really great. And we also had another one. Usually we'll do 2 at club fairs. One will be something where we can get people to kind of write their name and feel like they're involved in the club a bit, and then hopefully get them to join. And the other one is usually something that makes people smile. So for this semester, coming back from winter break, we wrote, "What was your favorite memory over break?" And by the end of the day, the whole board was filled up with all these different memories and things that were really fun for people over this past break. So that was really great. And we got a lot of people to join the club just because we got some markers on some paper, which is pretty neat. So another thing that's been really important for advocating for mental health are school newspapers. I was looking through the list of articles that I've been interviewed for, and there's been 8 or 10 just from the school newspaper that have reached out regards to mental health. So, whether it be a policy change that the SGA is trying to put in, or a comment about one of our football games is a mental health game in the fall, all different sorts of things. It's really cool to just be able to talk with the newspapers and give your feedback and opinion on what's going on. And ultimately, it ends up getting the word out there a little bit more, because again, that's another group of people that maybe didn't come to the club fair or whatever, but people that are reading the newspaper, now they say, "Oh, what's Active Minds?" And they go and look, and they get to learn about your organization. And who knows, there could be some really cool connections. Another thing that was really neat was I got to meet with the chancellor of the University of Maryland schools. So he has a chat with students from different schools every month. And we got to talk about what's going on in all the schools, what's important to people. And at this chat in particular, we were talking about mental health, which was really great. So I was able to chat about VAR, which I think is a great resource. If you haven't checked it out, definitely look into VAR. And we were able to just talk about what's going on and what we think needs to be changed. And so maybe that's something other states do where the chancellor of the school system chats with students. If not, it might be cool to reach out and see if you can set it up. You never know. And finally, similar to newspaper articles or school newspapers, chatting for like journalism articles, student projects, those are really cool because people that end up doing a deep dive into the organization can find all the cool work that Active Minds does, and ultimately just further spreads the word about Active Minds, your club, and it's net positive for everybody. So those are some things that I've been doing and our club's been doing to advocate for mental health. And yeah, I'm gonna pull up the, I'm sorry, Doa.
Oh no, I was just say thanks for sharing. It's like really cool that you got to speak with the chancellor. That's like really nice, actually.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. I honestly didn't know that there was a chancellor of the school. I don't know who I thought was in charge, but that was really cool. I got an email one day and said, "Hey, you've been selected if you want to chat with the chancellor." I was like, okay, yeah, that'd be cool. It does look like there's some good questions on the board.
Yeah.
Are there any, Doa, that you're seeing that you want to start with?
Yeah, I'll start with the first one of the questions under advocacy where it says, how did you find and get involved with advocacy areas outside of school? So for me personally, I kind of had some, I guess, areas of mental health that I really wanted to get involved with in college. And so when I first came to college, I joined Active Minds, and then I was like, oh, I like really want to get more involved in these specific areas. So I think kind of figuring out what areas of mental health you're very passionate about, whether it be like, oh, like there's like you'll probably find like a support group or even like a nonprofit organization that focuses in that area. And so like even just doing a quick Google search and then putting your location after it could really help. And for me, suicide prevention was definitely something I really wanted to get involved with. And so when I found out about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, I was like, I really wanted to get more involved with it. So I already knew someone at my school who was involved with it. So that was like an easy way for me to like get a contact from someone there and like talk to them. But if you don't know anyone who's already in that organization, you can definitely just email someone like a representative from there. If they have like a website or like a phone number, and just ask them like, is there any way for me to be involved? And so that's like how I personally got involved with AFSP. So they're so nice. They're like, I remember I just like had a coffee chat with one of the people there, and then they connected me to like resources to volunteer. And then eventually I was able to host events at my school. Like they do a lot of because American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is kind of like a larger nonprofit. So they have a lot of events that they already do every single year that they have like a budget for. So our school or our Active Minds chapter, after being involved with them for so long, we started kind of implementing some of their events onto our campus. And then, which is like super nice because they would be able to provide funding and materials for us, which works out really well, especially if you have like a more limited budget. So I think like the first step is really to figure out what your organization or you personally are just really passionate about within the realm of mental health, and then kind of doing like a Google search and digging into what organizations already exist, and then kind of figuring out how to support them. And I think in general, that's like how I like to approach advocacy and policy. If there's already an organization or effort that exists to tackle an issue that you are passionate about, I think it's more efficient and effective to support them instead of like having to create your own thing from like the ground up. So that's like kind of how I view it. But yeah, if you have any more questions like related to how to like get connected and stuff, like definitely feel free to ask. But that's how I kind of got started with AFSP specifically.
I think that's a really great response. And like the work you do on campus is super important. Yeah, one of the main goals of Active Minds is to help spread education and mental well-being for students, right? But being outside of school is also really important. Mental health affects everybody everywhere. And so one of the things I was able to do this past summer was at my internship, I got the opportunity to share a presentation about a couple of the toolkits Active Minds has, which was really neat. I was able to share information about the VAR toolkit as well as the Calm toolkit. which was really great. And it ended up having a really big impact on our team I worked on this past summer. And it was cool because I got to see, hey, this VAR tool that I just kind of mentioned, I didn't really think some people, it was on Zoom, right? It wasn't really in person. I feel like in person is a better interaction, but this meeting on Zoom actually ended up having an impact later down the line. So I could see sort of a change in tone of some people after I mentioned some things about microaggressions and how to have conversations when you don't necessarily know what to say. So talking during your jobs or internships, or if you want to just set up a table outside of your grocery store and just talk about mental health. I mean, people everywhere are so interested. And I see another question that I think this relates to. How do you grow active minds on campus? I think this is something that a lot of clubs, not just mental health clubs or active minds, but clubs in general struggle with. How do we get people, because everyone's trying to fight for your time and get everyone involved as much as they can. One thing that I found is really great is when you're doing the actual thing, like advocating or holding up signs or tabling, people come over that are interested. That's how you get people, is finding the people and actually being in a space where you have eyes and potentially getting people seeing what you're doing that are actually interested in what your mission is. So for us, if it's tabling out on our big grass field, we call McCutcheon Mall, or if it's at the club fair, or if we're having a general body meeting and we post it to Instagram, I'll repost it on my story, because who knows, maybe someone on my personal Instagram will see it and they say, oh, I'm really interested in mental health, I should come out to this. So all different sorts of things, social media, just doing the actual advocating or tabling or whatever you find most interesting, using those things to be able to grow your chapter can be super important.
Yeah, I definitely echo everything Nathan just said. I think he definitely had really great ideas about like how to get more people to come to get more involved with your chapter. I guess like some things that I could add on, I think are like pretty related to what he already said, but I think something that's helped a lot with my chapter is even with like planning events or planning things that are more like related to advocacy and policy, I think sometimes it's like tempting to just limit that like the behind the scenes work and stuff to like your exec board, but sometimes like getting general members or even just like advertising your event and saying, hey, like we want other voices on campus to come help like us plan this big event or help us like advocate for these policies. A lot of people who weren't even in the organization in the first place like become very interested in helping out in those ways. And so that's like a way we've been able to get a lot of like people to get to be more like committed members of Active Minds, to like invite a lot of different like voices and people around campus to come and help with these things that we once only really limited to like our exec board. But I think just like opening that up has helped a lot too for us.
Yeah, certainly. I can definitely agree with that. When we have meetings and we're able to involve the entire chapter, it's definitely a lot better. And we found that with meetings in particular, I guess I should preface with the Maryland chapter for Active Minds, we kind of started back up a couple years ago. It was about April 2021, and we were all really excited to get the chapter going. And we said, hey, let's do a general body meeting every 2 weeks, the first semester, and see how it goes. The first semester we did it, and there were a lot of meetings where it was just a few members of exec. There was no other members, it was just exec, and it was kind of upsetting. You put a lot of work into a presentation and getting everything ready for this event, and no one comes. And so after brainstorming and thinking about it more, we decided to focus our efforts into less meetings, but we could put more time and effort into them and more resources. And that's actually been really successful for us. So we found that a meeting once a month is actually really good. So occasionally we'll sprinkle in an extra thing here or there. Like tonight, as soon as this call's over, I'm going to run across campus and we're having a yoga night. But just little things here and there. If you do a once a month meeting, at least for us, that's worked well. And that gives us plenty of time to put it on social media, reach out to other organizations that have a similar mission statement to Active Minds, where trying to focus on mental health, ask if they can post it on Instagram, all different things. Ivy, I would love to teach yoga. I'm not even that flexible. I don't know that anyone should let me be a yoga teacher. but maybe another time. But yeah, no, just reaching out to other organizations for marketing. Another thing that I didn't mention with helping grow a chapter is reaching out to different departments on campus. Psychology is a really closely related department to mental health. So reaching out to psychology professors, giving them either a slide they can throw into a presentation or a flyer they can put up on a screen, email out to their students, and just spread the word about Active Minds. There's sometimes listservs. So for one of the schools within our university, there's a listserv that gets sent to all the students that attend that part of the school every day. And so you can ask for information about your club to be put in the listserv, and all different sorts of things that are as easy as sending an email. So I know it's a lot of work and reaching out, not only trying to make the events, get new members, get funds, all different sorts of things. There's a lot of things on your plate when you're trying to run a chapter. But sometimes a quick little email can start this chain of a whole lot of people seeing information about your chapter.
Yeah, those are all really great points, and I would definitely agree to like do a lot of outreach for events and like your organization. I saw Devin put something in the chat, and yeah, that's definitely something really important. I think considering the needs of your specific student body and where you're from is so important. And so like definitely like not everything is one size fits all. And so figuring out like what do people on our campus need in terms of like mental health support and discussion is like really, really important. And so I think it's cool that your school is talking about these things as well.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. I can't speak much like specifically to policy stuff, but one thing I can share is a link to this sub part of the Active Minds website called Transform Your Campus. And there's some pretty cool resources in there for all different sorts of things. One of the things that I was hoping we could get to this semester, but we haven't gotten to yet, was the ID card campaign. On the back of student IDs, it's starting to become more popular that 988 or 1-800-273-8255. Yeah, I think that's the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, gets put on the back of IDs. At Maryland, right now, the back of our ID has 3 phone numbers, and one of them is crisis counseling for UMD students. But the issue with the number is that it's the same phone number as the counseling center. So for students, when they call, they have to listen to a menu and try to connect to the right part. And that's not something that you really want to have to listen and talk to or like think about when you're trying to talk to someone. So changing it to potentially 988 or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or just having another resource that makes it more easy and quickly for students to be able to connect with someone to talk to is, I think, pretty important. So this website that I put in the chat has the ID cards campaign, leave of absence campaign, means reduction campaign, and a few other resources and some other different links if you want to check out just how to transform your campus a bit. And there's some cool Active Mind stuff on there.
Thanks for sharing that link, Nathan. I think it's like that's a really great starting point for sure if you like want to figure out ways to get more involved with like school policy and advocacy. I guess next maybe we can like split out into our breakout rooms. We want to give you all a space to kind of talk about what you have been doing on your campus, and maybe we can if you have any questions about how to get started or how to workshop through some of the issues that you like run into during your time with like policy and advocacy, this is like a great time for us to share. So we'll be splitting into breakout rooms. Nathan, should we just split it evenly because there's like not a ton of people today?
Yeah, do you want me to set it up?
Yeah, could you do that?
Yeah. All right, cool. So I'm gonna make the breakout rooms. We'll go for about 20-ish minutes, and then we'll come back together.
Also, Ivy, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was gonna do a quick poll while Nathan was setting up the breakout rooms if he was gonna take a minute to do that. But are people interested in legislative advocacy or thinking kind of more on their campus in terms of change?
Yeah, it's a good question.
You can put it in the chat, you can answer it. You don't have to answer it at all, that's fine too, but just curious.
That's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I can
Legislative advocacy?
Yeah.
I think ideally both, but more realistically in the present, probably just on campus.
Seems to echo what Caitlin said too in the chat.
Mhm.
Busy student lives.
Yeah, I think it's definitely really interesting to see what's going on in the community too. There's a lot of stuff going on in Nashville right now in terms of like there's a lot of like anti-LGBTQ bills being passed in Nashville and Tennessee that's like really negatively impacting mental health. And so that's like something a lot of people within our chapter have been talking about and getting involved with too. So I think like I think it's nice to see how broader like things happening in your community can also affect the mental health of students on campus too. So it's like very connected, I think.
So at my campus, we have a gender sexual alliance group that we partner with too. We actually did an event, I think, for Thanksgiving. Around Thanksgiving, we had like a Friendsgiving event, and we came together to help those that are, that identify in the LGBTQ, that were there for their support. And then I know that we also, at least in Muskegon, we have like we do like a Pride Fest. And I know that's something we're like looking into, being there for like students and stuff.
Yeah, those are really cool initiatives. And I think it's like nice that you have those inclusive spaces on your campus, especially like in a mental health setting. I think that's something a lot of students need and want on campus.
Yeah, Devin, you mentioned partnering with organizations. I think that's super important because it's the more people you can get involved, the better. And for these policies and ideas that are so important, the more eyes you can get on it, the more impact I think it'll have. And so every time we partner with an organization for an event or something we're doing, like gets a lot more people out, gets people a lot more interested, and it's really fun because you get new people that might not have seen your club before and now get to understand what's going on now.
Another thing that we have is like at our bathrooms. I don't know, like it's in the men's and women's bathroom. We have like there's supplies for like people that may identify as trans or stuff like that, so that they don't feel like they're not being supported.
Yeah, that's actually really cool that like being inclusive of that and like even like those, I think like, yeah, I feel like not a lot of schools do that. So I think it's really cool that your campus is doing that.
Yeah, it's really neat. Cool. Well, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms and we'll be in there for probably 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll come back together. Well, it looks like everybody is back. How did the conversations go?
Well, how did your conversations go?
It was good. We had a lot of people talking about a lot of things, and I thought it was really good. I heard a lot of things that I never thought would be something that would come up, but there were some really cool stories people shared. Cool. Well, does anyone want to chat about anything that they learned, notes they took, things they thought other people should hear?
Well, our group kind of talked about frustrations with admin and kind of how to like navigate those situations. I think we didn't have like a clear answer to those problems, but I think it was nice for us to kind of like relate to those sentiments and like bond over it a little bit. So that was like mostly what we talked about. And also like the struggles of like starting up a new chapter and things like that. But what about you guys?
Yeah, we talked about like for student athletes in particular, how do we also make sure that like coaches, faculty, staff are also going through different sorts of mental health training to make sure that they're doing all right. I thought that was pretty cool because at least here at Maryland, I know student athletes have to go through some sort of like mental health check-in every once in a while. But I never really thought about the coaches, faculty, and staff as well, and making sure that they're all right, because for any games on the road, they're away from their family and for potentially an extended period of time, and that could take a big toll on people. So making sure that our coaches, our managers, any faculty, bus drivers, pilots that have to go with the team, whoever it is, that they're doing all right as well.
Yeah, that's really thoughtful and like a really interesting, or not interesting, but a good perspective to think about too, as like we get more involved with advocacy. My chapter is like, or my faculty advisor especially, she's been talking a lot about having like a meeting with a bunch of different faculty members from like different departments on our campus to kind of talk about how to best support their mental health needs as well as their students, because I think some departments are more familiar with that. I've like taken classes in many different departments, and I think like my psychology professors are definitely like really understanding and like really good about prioritizing mental health. But I think like some of my professors in other departments have been less so, just because I think they don't really know much about like how to best support mental health. So I think like it's really important to get that faculty perspective as well, and how they feel about things going on campus and like wellness too.
Yeah, no, faculty, I haven't really spoken to a lot of faculty in the psychology department in particular, but outside of the psychology department that I've talked to, I found that it's really like kind of few and far between faculty that really care about mental health, which is unfortunate. But when you do find a faculty or a professor that really cares, it's really great. Like one of my professors, my freshman, sophomore year, I got to have him twice, which was cool. At the beginning of every class, he would put up all the mental health resources, or at least a ton of the resources that campus has to offer. So the counseling center, we have anonymous peer-to-peer texting lines, national numbers to call, different group sessions happening at the counseling center, the health center, yoga sessions, therapy dogs, whatever he could find for that week. He put it up on a slide at the beginning of class. And I thought that was really neat because he didn't have to do it. It wasn't part of the curriculum. It was an environmental sciences class and nothing to do with mental health, but he did it anyway because he thought it was important. And so it's things like that that made me feel better, and people used it. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's really thoughtful and sweet, and I really hope that like as time goes on, like I think even these professors, like giving these professors like spaces to like talk about how they support their students' needs can really influence other fellow like professors and faculty members. And so I think like my chapter is like really hoping to do that at some point. And so it's like nice to hear that there are like professors who really prioritize mental health within like their students.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. Well, does anyone have any last minute questions? We've got a couple minutes left, so if anyone has anything, we can talk about it. Oh, all right. Well, if anyone does have any questions, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. So if anyone wants to email me, more than welcome to. I'll also put my Slack in the chat if anyone wants to reach out to me on there. Email, Slack, it doesn't matter. Our next chapter chat will be about leadership transition. That's going to be Monday, April 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. So definitely sign up for that if you're interested in hearing about a leadership transition panel. And yeah, we really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Doe, it was great chatting with you, and everybody else that came. It's great talking to you and hearing all these cool perspectives. And I hope everyone has a great night.
I'm going to put too, if you aren't part of Slack, our Slack sign up sheet so that you can be added to the Slack network. And thank you for the April chapter chat plug, which if you want to see Doa again, she will be there. I'll also put my email address in for anyone that wants it.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everyone. How'd that feel? Oh, I can stop recording.